just wanted to ask, like, defending McDavid, did you do anything different than you would against any of the other superstars?
Well, I just think you have to have a heightened awareness when he's on the ice. He's obviously, I think the biggest difference that makes Connor so unique is the speed at which he executes plays out there. And anytime we have an opportunity to try to limit his speed and deny him the ability to get the puck and stride, I think it gives us a better chance to defend against him. I think that's what makes him unique, is just how fast he can execute plays with the puck, whether it be off the rush or in zone. So we're going to have a certain heightened awareness when he's on the ice, without a doubt.
Mike, you've spent a lot of time talking about wanting the team to play with pace. What kind of test is Edmonton because of how fast they play?
Yeah, I don't think. I think they have certain players that play with pace, and I think that's what makes Edmonton unique. When you look at all the good teams in the league, the teams that are contending, they all play with some level of pace to their game. I don't know that there's any real competitive team in the league that plays slow. I just think it's the evolution of the game. It's the way the game's being played. So speed can be a real competitive advantage, and speed can manifest itself different ways. There's physical foot speed, there's team speed, your ability to change the point of attack and move the puck, being connected on breakouts, things of that nature help your team speed, And then there's mind speed or intellectual speed, your ability to process the game quickly, windows of opportunity open and close, so you can anticipate on both sides of the puck to try to take advantage. So speed in all of its forms for me is a real competitive advantage in today's game. I think Edmonton, what makes them unique is they have a couple of players that not only do they have the physical foot speed that make them hard to defend against, but they also think the game on a really high level. So they have the mind speed to take advantage or exploit opportunity when it presents itself, and that's what makes them unique. But I think all the good teams have some element of speed associated with their game.
Is it more challenging when McDavid and Draisaitl are playing together, or when they're playing outside?
It's just different, when they're together. Obviously, they're dangerous when they're together. The downside of that is they lose a little bit of balance in their lineup, and so as an opponent, you can try to key on one line as opposed to two, for example, whether it be defense pairs, line combinations, whatever it may be. So there's always, I'm sure their coaching staff is always weighing that decision, just like the rest of us do with our lineups. Is it, do you load the top six, or do you balance your team out and pose more of a threat that way? And I don't know that there's any right or wrong answer. I think it's just about, knowing your team and where your team is at and trying to make the best decision.
What have you thought of Gavrikov's fit with this group and his chemistry that's building with Al?
So I think he's fit in really well. I think the dimension that he brings is an important one for us. His ability to defend, his presence in the battle areas at the net front, in the corners. He's big and strong. He leans on people. He's hard to play against by nature of his size and his strength and how he leans on people. He helps us on the penalty kill in that area. So I think the addition of him on the blue line has been very advantageous for us. I think the chemistry he's building with Foxy is a work in progress. I think there's still a feeling out process there, but I do think it's improving.
Mike, what would it be to get a win at home for this group?
It'd be great. We're trying to win every game we play, and so to try to establish ourselves at home would be I think it would be good for our own team morale, and so we were certainly encouraged with the last effort that we had. We thought we potentially deserved better in that game, but that's hockey, and that's that happens. But if we bring the same intentions, the same attention to detail, and the same effort that we brought in the last game, I think we're going to be hard to play against, and we think we can compete against anybody when we play that way.
Well, Susie's out. Are you looking at interchange Schneider from the right and left side, or do you want to see him play one specific role?
Well, you've seen him play there. You've seen him in both spots, right? That's probably what you'll see.
I know it's only been 4 games, but do you feel like early growing pains can be a good thing, especially as it pertains to the foundation we're trying to build here?
Yeah, I think whenever a team goes through challenges, that's when you grow. That's the opportunity to grow and get better. And so, we've had a little bit of a mixed bag in this early part of the season. We really didn't like the first game that we played. The next couple, we think we've played pretty well. We feel like we've gotten better with each game that we've played. And that's encouraging that we're trending in the right direction. I thought the last game we played was the most complete against a real good opponent. So we just have to continue to try to, move the needle every day. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. We're going to focus on the one day right in front of us, whether it's a practice or a game. Today it happens to be a game. So we're gonna try to put our best game on the ice. We're going to try to learn through that experience and see if we can improve and get better. That's the most important thing from our standpoint as a coaching staff, and I think we're moving the needle every day, and I think that's what we're encouraged by.
Mike, Gavrikov was a player in one place for a little bit. That's where he established himself, right? Established the kind of player he is in this league. It's a transition for him to come. I mean, I wonder, your time with players, do these guys make this transition easy, do you think? Like, does he make it look easy, the transition of moving from one place to another, establishing yourself there? Or is it still going to be a challenge that you're seeing? Is it still a challenge for players, or are players able to do this a little bit easier?
I think when a player spends a significant amount of time in one spot, it's never easy because change isn't easy. That's just human nature. So, I think it's always, at least my experience of coaching guys that have been in one spot for a long period of time and then they come to a new team, everything's different. And so everything from off the ice to potentially styles of play and things of that nature, details and how your team is playing on the ice. So there's an adjustment process. And so I don't think Vladdy's any different in that regard. I think he's doing a good job at making that adjustment. I think he's working at it, and I think he's a smart kid. He understands how we're trying to play, and he understands what his role is and how he can help us win games, and I think he's working at that. But my experience has been that that type of change is a challenge for anyone that comes to a completely new environment.
I imagine it helps if you're not asking him to do anything out of what he was previously doing. Like,
No,
right?
that's what we like about his game. That's what attracted us to him is his reliability and his predictability. And so we're not asking him to change his role or what everything that he brought to his former team, we want him to bring to the Rangers, and that's what he's trying to do.
Speaking of intellectual speed, some of your guys talked about today that they're learning responsibility, structure, discipline. When you hear guys talking like that, is that good to hear? Is that part of the process?
Yeah, for sure it is. Because that's a conversation that we have with these guys daily. One of the things that we've tried to define is the type of game that we have to play or we think we should play that sets us up for success. And I think, once again, I can only go back to my own experiences, but it's hard to score your way to success. You have to have the capacity to play on both sides of the puck. Scoring is part of success, without a doubt. The best teams score. They also defend. They play within structure. There's an element of predictability associated with their game, especially their play away from the puck. So everyone has a responsibility to that, right? And has to take ownership for that. So those are the conversations that we're having with the team since day one of training camp. And, part of my job is to try to sell the message, and I've got to win these guys over. We got to get buy-in if we're going to become, the team that we hope to become. So the fact that they're having that conversation at least suggests to me a little bit that they're listening, and hopefully we can continue to go down that path.